I would like to turn to Mr. Sushil Kumar, that's from the Association of Ludhiana Machine Tools Industries. So we represent the tools industries from Ludhiana, which is indeed one of the leading clusters in this sector. And industry machinery and tools are often also in this category of what I would call the sweet spot of where opportunities for are greater and barriers potentially lower for development of remanufacturing. So within your cluster, do you already see some business activities that could be reasonably qualified as remanufacturing, even though they might not necessarily be called that way? And is there an appetite from the members, including also the MSMEs, to consider remanufacturing? Mr. Kumar, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon to all panelists. Actually, I am General Secretary of Ludhiana Machine Tool Manufacturers Association. So, remanufacturing is a very good topic. Few of our members are already doing remanufacturing of the machines which they import from the they remanufacture that machines and give it to the industry for reuse. So there is a very good scope for us. We are already doing it. It can be done in better way if little handholding is done by UNIDO and government, because there is nothing here to train the people who can do this type of jobs easily. And second thing, which problem we are facing here, that we don't have some skilled people about these things. So like graduation has come, BTech people are there. BTech people are not practical people. They don't come in this type of jobs. So UNIDO has made some central rooms, 2 rooms in the country, which have helped a lot in this tooling and all these things. So it is my suggestions to UNIDO. You please make some excellency center for machine tool in Ludhiana, because it is a huge potential here. People are very much aggressive to do something extraordinary here. So whenever after 47, when India was divided and the people came from villages in this city, Ludhiana city, they manufactured machines for whole India, all the parts, cycle parts, auto parts, machines, and everything they produced. They were producing SPM machines from here. These people are very much skilled people here. So it is God-gifted people, are God-gifted skilled engineers here. So we want some UNIDO should have some initiative to, because UNIDO is very much the system of UNIDO is very good. As I have seen in CTR, many people trained in CTR are doing very good now. They are small micro industries have been developed by those people who have learned there. So my suggestion is simply that it is a good initiative. It is possible to remanufacture in India. So machines are the basic things which can be done first of all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that you see some remanufacturing happening on imported equipment. So what types of equipment are you then talking about? Is there machining equipment, or what kind of equipment? Just for the clarification of people on the call.
Sir, all types of machines, metal cutting, metal forming, metal forging machines are brought here and again remanufactured and supplied to the industry.
Okay, so it's a wide variety of industries, so not necessarily just the tooling side, but forming and other related ones. I think you pointed out very clearly the need for skills and skills. Do you think there are specific needs for additional skills for remanufacturing, or are we talking about more of the skills for manufacturing and the hands-on skills? Because you were not so keen on, satisfied with the BTECs coming out. So do you think this is kind of a similar skills needed, or is there a need to do something specifically on remanufacturing skills?
So actually, according to me, there should be specific, I can say that excellency centers for these products, some excellency centers. Like CTRR for tooling, central
Yes.
rooms in India for tooling. So
yes,
we have got a huge potential from that. So my suggestion is that if we have one institute here, like CTR pattern in Ludhiana, for specifically for machine tool, where our children should go for studies, 4 years diploma, and common facilities should also be there. Some machines are very costly, which our micro industry people are unable to buy those machines to remanufacture the machines or to manufacture the machines. So my suggestion is this: if we have some common facility center, training institutes, and some research and development center, combination should be there. And we can have some one fourth suggestion is that we can have some retired technicians, old age home for technicians in same place, who can train those people who children's coming for training. They can train the people, and they will help for running those machines in that institute also.
Yes, so a lot of emphasis on the capacity building and the demonstration of it, so that we to a certain extent, the seeing is also the believing, so that our entrepreneurs, business or unit owners can get into this industry sector. So thank you very much for your contribution at this point in time. Maybe we'll come back in a second, but let me go on to Mr. Swapan Mehra, Vice President on Waste and Environment Issues at Invest India, and Invest India is co-hosting this event this afternoon. So, Mr. Mehra, remanufacturing will ultimately also depend on only happen when business see an opportunity and has confidence in the supply and of discarded products in the markets for remanufactured goods and the support of industrial infrastructure. Could you share the perspective of Invest India on the development of remanufacture? Is there some potential investor interest to set up remanufacturing units, and what are their concerns and requirements? Floor is yours, Mr. Mehra.
Thank you very much, René. And firstly, thank you very much for inviting me, for having us as a partner in this very important and timely discussion. And welcome to everybody else as a co-host of this particular panel. Like René mentioned, Invest India, for some of you who might not be aware, is India's National Investment Promotion Agency. And we are tasked with the very important activity of attracting, facilitating, and helping investors from around the world to invest in and develop India's economy. We have sectoral teams across very critical industries such as capital goods, manufacturing in automobile, electronics, so on and so forth, which are looking very actively at opportunities not only to just scale up investment and output, but also increasingly to look at a sustainable method to do so. In its commitment, René and others, to look at sustainability, I'd like to highlight here that Invest India has recently started a new mission, which is in partnership with, or actually it's led by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, but hosted and administered and managed and run on a day-to-day basis by Invest India, which is very much now interfacing with all of these industrial groups. It's called the Waste to Wealth Mission. The key idea behind the Waste to Wealth Mission is to identify, it's to provide science, technology, and investment inputs to identify, test, validate circular economy technologies for conservation of all our natural resources, and to move towards the goal of a clean, investor-friendly India. So this mission, not only does it look at technologies that implement, say, municipal waste solutions, but is increasingly started to interface with our industrial groups as well as industry associations. We've started with pharma. We are now working on power generation, on cogeneration. We are working now increasingly also with the chemical industry, and soon hoping to engage with machines in terms of looking at opportunities to green their value chains. And of course, remanufacturing is a critical part of this whole endeavor. In some of our past work, some of our teams, such as the capital market team, etc., have come out with some opportunities or have faced some opportunities where there has been interest, for example, with the railways, with large contractors to remanufacture equipment. We are exclusively working in the e-waste sector to set up some e-waste processing plants. And I'd like to just echo the thoughts of some of my colleagues here, who are, of course, much more proficient and have a lot more experience in this space, that there are few fundamental challenges that we need to work towards, right? One is creating a demand for remanufactured products. How do you differentiate from fresh product capital goods? How do you also counter the fact and the opinion that remanufacturing will not add as much to the economy as fresh production will, because of the allied supply chains and the feeder supply chains? And how do you create a narrative that remanufacturing is essential towards achieving all our SDG and climate goals, and in the end would be much more critical for the larger economy than just looking at a product by product comparison? So those are some areas which we are seeking to support through the Waste to Wealth mission and its analysis. we will soon start reaching out to various industries, such as the ones here, to identify specific policy constraints. We've also seen at Invest India that we have challenges regarding, for example, taxation, the GST benefits, so on and so forth, that our colleagues at Tata spoke about. And this is something that we'll progressively try and think of, work on, and through our offices and also through the offices of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, who is the co-host of this mission, we'll try and definitely take them up at a very high level and see the ones that we can address quickly to promote this sector. I'd lastly like to conclude by saying that we are also taking another view to the circular economy and remanufacturing space by making sure that we first drain out and empty all of the legacy waste that's stacked up all over our country, right? I think that's really critical. So we've Can you hear me? Oh, yeah.
Yes, you're back. You dropped out for a second.
Yes, I was just quoting an example of how we are approaching the idea of also remanufacturing using goods which have been discarded a long time ago. So we've started an interesting pilot in which we are trying to make probably one of the world's first roads using legacy municipal solid waste as a fill material. We've carried out extensive research through a pioneering institution in India and shown that it has no adverse environmental effects and can really very strongly replace virgin soil. So that's an interesting pilot that we are doing and something that we look forward to extending in the industrial areas. I'll stop with that. I would very much like to be more in a listening mode to look at recommendations and challenges from other panel members and then to collaborate with all of you to take this agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that comment. And I think yes, we can be very narrow focused on remanufacturing, but we can also, of course, need to take a having a broader perspective on all the wealth from waste perspectives. So that is very much there. So we need and a lot of those. A lot of those policies which are supportive to wealth from waste will ultimately also be beneficial to remanufacturing. So how you create and wealth out of waste will be depending on the type of waste that you're addressing with. And it's right that you're saying that we need to look at the current waste generation, but also at our legacy waste and the legacy dumps that we have. So to clean those in part up. But I also tend to say that we cannot only do the legacy waste and then continue to let the leaking tap run and continue to create waste generation. So, but I think it's very clear that we need to look at a comprehensive view for wealth out of waste and some of the work that UNIDO is doing also with clean tech innovation, also with some of the programs of Invest India is also very much going in that way to encourage value creation. So let me go back to Rajiv, maybe for a quick comments, and then I will ask the Joint Secretary to make some comments. But maybe, Rajiv, you could give us a little bit of a sense of being the specialist, or at least as it goes in the land of the blind, the one-eyed is king. So you've been looking at this remanufacturing for some longer time. So what do you see from the components from the contributions made by the panelists so far?
Yes, thanks, René, and thank you everybody for sharing your perspective. Very helpful. I think the utility of just bringing folks together to talk about something that has a long-term value proposition is helpful to understand what the current state of the landscape looks like. And it's very nice to know that companies like Tata Motors have been doing this for about 20 years. I think the concerns raised have a validity to them from the standpoint of the perception of remanufactured products in the market. I think that's important to address head on, and also what the creation of a particular policy landscape can look like that creates this enabling environment, whether it's through tax incentives or other mechanisms. Sustainable public procurement, for example, could be another way. But I certainly don't see this being a piecemeal, sequential process. I think all of these aspects, ranging from evaluating which specific sectors have the greatest potential to addressing the policy gap needs as well as the training needs. I think there has to be a simultaneous approach to this and not kind of a piecemeal, let's kind of analyze it, one piece at a time. That being said, also, I think from an industry perspective, certainly the automotive industry has been at the forefront of remanufacturing globally, undoubtedly. But just for the benefit from the standpoint of getting a feel for which other industries around the world are engaged in remanufacturing, it's a reasonably long list, in my opinion. It includes electrical and electronic products, computer peripherals, medical diagnostic equipment, in the healthcare sector, agricultural equipment, certainly the heavy duty and off-road vehicle sector. So I think from the standpoint of looking at the breadth of industries that remanufacturing can occur in, should not simply be limited by virtue of what's already occurred. And I think this is where to me, there is excitement from the standpoint of innovation, right? Because it goes back to, I think somebody mentioned early on, from a design standpoint, it goes back to the question of how are we designing products fundamentally? What material choices are we making? In the case of Tata Motors, making modular materials, products or standardized components has a significant utility. The other, I think, concern that was also raised, and it's a fair concern that Swapan brings up, thank you for your comments, is the issue of whether by engaging in remanufacturing, you're cannibalizing your own market. Right? And this is something that I've talked with some other folks around the world as well. And largely speaking, this doesn't tend to be true. There might be some for sure where those folks that are more cost sensitive might want to move towards remanufactured products, but arguably, depending on the product, again, depending on the industry, a lower cost product at the same value in terms of quality opens up an entirely new market for you, right? So you don't necessarily competing for the same market share. It could be geographical dispersion, for example. So let me, I don't want to take up too much of the airtime here, especially because I see Dr. Kumar is on. So it'd be wonderful to hear her comments as well from DPIIT's perspective. But I'm certainly looking forward to what the next step is. And so, I didn't really talk about what Recreate is, the organization, Recreate India Research Foundation. The central premise of the existence of the organization as a research and advocacy enterprise is to catalyze and advance remanufacturing. And that means doing the diagnostics to figure out what's the state of the industry right now, doing the research and working with the policymakers to figure out where should there be changes, what are the training needs. So all of the concerns that have been brought to the forefront, I'm particularly excited from the standpoint of engaging with everybody and seeing where there might be opportunities for collaboration to address these head on and not in a piecemeal way, certainly from the standpoint of consumer perceptions, because this consumer perception issue is not a local issue in India. This is something that is the remanufacturing industry has had to work to establish around the world. And towards the end, I will sort of briefly mention that we're hosting another event tomorrow, and that has David Fitzsimons from the European Remanufacturing Council. So certainly this will be a continuation of where we are ending today. So let me pause there. Thank you, René.